So how much should we charge for one of these? Flat white, 6 ounces of coffee perfection. So the answer is currently £3.30, but it's probably going to go up soon. And this video is just a little bit about the costs involved, why we set the prices we do, and the kind of things that influence us and the wider industry when it comes to pricing. It's a pretty complex business, it turns out. There's a lot of things going on, and yeah, the £5 flat white, how far away is it? Don't worry, not coming here anytime soon, but it could happen. Flat whites originated in Australia or New Zealand, it depends who you ask. Don't ask the wrong person or say the wrong thing, it can be quite contentious. But they were invented in the 80s and they've become a real mainstay of specialty coffee around the world, particularly the last 10-15 years. Our most popular hot drink throughout the year. We sell more of these than anything else. So what is it? Well, it can vary in terms of recipes. So originally it was using a double ristretto. We use a double espresso, so that's 40 grams of extracted coffee from about 19 grams dose of ground beans, and that takes around 30 seconds. And so recipes vary between beans, between cafes in terms of preference, but it's about 1.5 ounces, 40 grams of espresso, topped up with around 4 ounces of perfectly textured, lightly textured milk with latte art on top. So you've got a 5 to 6 ounce drink, that's your flat white. Anything bigger than that, we think is a latte. Traditionally, all flat whites are at 5 to 6 ounces. Some unmentionable coffee shops on the high street will go up to 20 ounces for hot drinks, which is basically just hot milk with a tiny bit of coffee flavouring. But yeah, 6 ounces is perfect for the flat white, and the reason it's become so popular is just that perfect balance of espresso and milk coming together. It allows you to kind of enjoy the best of both, and they are amazing. So how much does it cost us to make one of these? So when you break down the ingredients, first up you got coffee. We use 40p of this per drink, so we get these beans for £20 a kilo from Chimney Fire down the road. It's amazing, specialty rated. I think this is 81 on the specialty scale. They're Brazilian single origin espresso, 40p per dose of that. You then add to that delicious milk. So we get ours from Plurendon Manor Farm, straight from the farmer. This is 88p per litre, which means 4 ounces of milk in here is about 12p. And then you've got the cup itself. So we buy these custom printed from CP Packaging with our artwork on. These cost around 15-16p each. Obviously then add a couple of pennies for a lid if you like lids, which brings the total cost of the ingredients, what goes into a flat white, 67p. We sell them for £3.30, which means there's a gross profit of precisely 80%. I think it's just under 81%, which is pretty standard. You're looking at 75 to 85% gross profit margin on most hot drinks sold in the UK. And that sounds pretty healthy, right? 80% profit, like you don't get that on many items, many industries. How can it possibly be difficult to run a cafe and make a profit if that's the case? Well, first up, 20% of this is VAT, so 55p of every £3.30 drink straight to HMRC. We then obviously have wages. So our single biggest expense is the same for most places. We spend around 30 to 35% of our turnover on staff wages. We pay slightly above market rates because they're really good staff. We've got a slightly unique and quirky location, and we really depend on quality of service, quality of product, consistency, and by paying a little bit more, we get the best people and we retain them. And it also means that we don't actually need as many bodies. We find that one absolute ninja is better than having 2 fairly competent people or 1 leader and 1 kind of helper most of the time. We have up to 3 people when we're really busy, but 1 highly competent, highly trained barista is exactly what we need, and we pay a little premium for it. But yeah, 30 to 35%, that's pretty standard again in terms of industry norms for wages. So just on VAT and wages, that's over 50% of that gross profit margin gone. And then beyond this, we've got utilities, we've got maintenance, we've got insurance, we've got pensions, we've got equipment rental, equipment servicing, cleaning products, rent, all sorts of other things which contribute and just eat away at that margin until there's not a huge amount left. There's large capital purchases which we try and spread as thin as we can across the year, new fridges, new freezers, whole new kitchen units that we built last year, extra storage, all these things just chip away, gross profit, that little margin comes down and down and down, and sometimes we make a loss, and that's also quite normal. We're lucky most of the time we do make a profit at the end of the month, at the end of each quarter, but it's no way near as straightforward as you might think to run a cafe profitably. Now, there's a lot of industry discussion about the £5 cup of coffee, how far away it might be, and how the world and how the market would react to that if that was the case. You've got droughts in Brazil, that's where we get our espresso beans from. We've got droughts in Vietnam, which is another huge coffee producing area. You've got soaring fertilizer prices. You've got climate change, which is shrinking the relatively narrow band of altitudes at which you can actually grow coffee beans successfully. And all of this conspires to just drive the price of coffee up. So if you look back at 2021, there's a global market for coffee beans. It's called the global coffee futures price of Arabica beans has gone up over 3 times in the last 4 years. So 2021, it was around $102, and it's now $328. I checked this morning. That cost is obviously then passed down the supply chain to the consumer, and we know directly from our suppliers, Chimney Fire, how much of an impact it has on them. They're constantly renegotiating deals with their suppliers, trying to find the best way of reducing their outgoing so they don't have to pass on all the costs onto us. But inevitably, those prices are going to keep going up and up. In the 2 years that we've been open, the price that we pay per kilo has gone up from 18 to 20. That'll keep going. It'll probably be £25 in the not too distant future. And if you want a quality product, you kind of have to pay for it. And either we continue to pass that on to consumer in order to make our business keep working, or we have to find a new supplier. You could get coffee beans for half the price of these if we wanted to. We could go to Costco or Lidl or someone like that, get a cheaper product, less quality, maintain our pricing, but the product would just not be as good. It's not physically possible to make high quality specialty coffee with inferior beans. So we need to keep paying that premium. And the nature of that is the price will just keep going up. Now, in the same way that we're now used to paying £6, sometimes £7, £8, £9 a pint if you go to the pub, where it used to be £3 10, 15 years ago, coffee's going to go the same way. Could be £5 for a coffee, could be £6. Who knows where we'll be in a few years' time. It's going to be interesting to see. As I say, climate change is a real driving factor. It's really shrinking coffee growing areas, and it's putting a real squeeze on supply chains around the world. So I've been out and about over the last couple of weeks trying some of our local coffee shops around here, seeing what they're charging for flat whites and seeing what they're charging for brownies as well. I thought brownies are a good little barometer of the price of baked goods. Everywhere pretty much sells one. The ones we sell here are bigger than I've seen anywhere else. So the Lockdown Bakehouse brownies that we sell, I also think they're better. They are unbelievable. And we're also the only place which is charging under £4 for one. Apart from Gales, but they do a tiny one which is the size of a finger. So I included another chocolate baked good in my research from them for price comparison purposes. But yeah, you're getting an absolute bargain if you're buying a brownie from us at the moment. We're going to have to put the prices on those up a little bit in our price review in the next few weeks. And on the flat white front, so most places are charging £3.80, £3.90, some places £4 for a flat white round here. Most of them are pretty good. Some places, inevitably, too hot is a common thing with flat whites, or too large. A lot of places will serve them in an 8-ounce cup, which for me is not a flat white, that's a latte. But that's neither here nor there. And to be fair, if you've got a good shot of espresso and nicely steamed milk, it's still a good drink, so it's not the end of the world. But yeah, this little graph is how we sit in the local market. And the only place which is doing a flat white for cheaper than us is the local garden centre. And that's not really a coffee shop. People don't go there for specialty coffee. It's more of a sort of tea room kind of setup. The coffee was, frankly, really terrible. But you don't go to the garden centre for that. So I'm not really going to criticise them or compare ourselves to them too much, but it was interesting. Yeah, the only place we're charging less was a far inferior product. We pride ourselves on having very consistent, high quality coffee here, and I think there's obviously a lot of wiggle room. We're not providing, you know, an indoor heated luxury environment that you get in some of these places, but we've still got a lot of the same costs which go into running the business. So we're going to be moving towards that probably 360, 70, maybe 380 point, either in the next few weeks. We might have to put prices up just on a more regular basis as we assess our costs. But yeah, I think you can see definite wiggle room there for us to move up there, and that little bit of margin there will make a huge difference to us over the course of the year. Our electricity electricity price, which has been fixed for the last 5 years, is doubling at the end of this month. So there's a lot of costs for us, which we're going to have to factor in to the price of coffee. So what do you think the price of a flat white should be? Is £4 too much? Is £5 inevitable? Will you stop buying flat whites if they cost £5? It's hard to kind of see how that manifests itself, but I think we're going to have to get used to the fact that everything is getting more expensive at the moment. Inflation is not seeming to come under control anytime soon, so paying more for things is unfortunately probably going to be increasingly common for everybody.